I'm Renee, host of Roots of Faith. Today we'll be visiting St. Aloysius Parish here in the heart of Baton Rouge. This parish, the church itself, is nestled between College Drive and Acadian Thruway, and demographically it's where the administration for the diocese, or the Catholic Life Center, is within the boundaries of this parish. So as you can tell, it's kind of centrally located. It's a beautiful campus. This is one that's unique in the sense of the artwork that's here and the history that's here in the city. So join us as we explore this unique parish. I have as my guest today Father Randy Cuevas here at St. Aloysius, and you've been here since 2015, correct?
Correct.
And I know it's wonderful. I come here sometimes for that evening Mass when we're coming back late from the country, and I enjoy Mass here. It's such a unique parish that we're going to visit today. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I do know from our talking here and the fact that your bio is actually on your website, isn't it?
Correct.
So I was able to read quite a bit of it, but you went to school here. You're from this parish, correct? When you were young?
I did. I was baptized here and grew up here at St. Aloysius.
Yeah.
In fact, I went through elementary school here, kindergarten through the 8th grade. One of the joys of coming back as pastor 4 years ago was the fact finding out that many of my elementary schoolmates had never left the parish, that they grew up here, they raised their families here, and that we're now grandparents and their children, grandchildren are in the school.
Isn't that amazing that the community here has been here for so long, and you're firsthand visualizing that? You have served at quite a few places in our diocese as a priest, but I want to thank you for your service to our country, because I do know that from your bio that you are retired from the U.S. Air Force Reserve as a chaplain.
That's correct, right.
After 30 years of service, and Father Cuevas was actually, you were deployed in 2004 and 2006.
Twice between 2004
served in battle
and
in
2006.
Afghanistan. So thank you for your service in that. Right. In addition to all the many other ways that you serve here in the diocese, you're also dean of the South Central Deanery. And for our viewers, what that is, the average person doesn't know what a dean is, but it's the diocese is broken into sections and several, usually geographically, and there's several churches within each deanery, and you are the head of the South Central Deanery.
Correct.
You're also involved with Boy Scouts, correct?
I actually started out in the Scouts here at St. Aloysius as a Cub Scout in Pac 7. Then I graduated to Webelos and then to Troop 7 here at St. Aloysius. And then subsequently, after I was ordained a priest, Bishop Ott needed to appoint a diocesan scout chaplain, and I got to do those honors. And I went on to actually learn how to do that by going to conventions of the National Catholic Committee on Scouting. But in doing so, they put me on some of their standing committees, and eventually they elected me as national chaplain of Catholic Scouting. So I had that experience, and then it's been a joy to come back to St. Aloysius, where
right.
Pac 7 and Troop 7 are thriving, and I serve on the troop committee and as their executive officer, and so that's a great joy as well.
And you serve at the diocesan level on committees as well. Is it the Presbyterial?
Oh, we all have multiple hats
diocese, that's true.
in addition to our parishes, and so I serve at the bishop's pleasure on a number of consultative positions for him.
So, well, you're a man of many hats, as all priests are, but I was astounded with your service, because I did not know that about you to our country, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much.
Going back here, a little the early history of this parish was actually started, it was canonically deemed a parish in 1955, and it was carved out of St. Agnes and Sacred Heart. As we know from previous shows too, as we grow as a church, communities grow, sometimes other churches are built from the mother churches, and those are the two mother churches for this parish. So that was in 1955. The first pastor here was Father Daniel Becknell, and Father Becknell immediately had a group of parishioners at that point, about 200 families or so. They got a building committee going. They would have Mass at the South Downs Elementary School, and within a year, they had a church. And
That's correct.
Father Becknell started it as the temporary church, and it served for 40 years, as has been the case in some other parishes. What amazed me when I was researching for this show is that that church is still standing, and it's actually connected to this newer church in front.
That's correct. I believe that he originally conceived the building which served as the church for so many years as being a gym, because it was situated between the first two school buildings for the school, which he also built within the first 2 years of the existence of the parish. And as it turned out, as things happen, his plan didn't get realized that way. The school was in need of a gym before it was ready to build a new church. So the first gym and actually a second gym have been built with the school. So when the new church was constructed in 1996, the old church was turned into a parish hall.
Right, but it's physically connected. You can walk right through into it, which makes it so uniquely different here.
Yeah, and it's very convenient. But as the parish grows, so its needs for facilities are increasing, and so it may be repurposed even yet.
Yes. We were talking about this parish and how unique it is, and it's thriving right here in the middle of Baton Rouge. How many families now? We started out with 200, we were saying, but do you know about the size?
Well, we have now, the parish has over 3,000 families.
Wow, see
and
that?
growing.
Amazing, and growing. And this church can accommodate quite a few, from what I read, about 600 in the old church and upwards of 1,000 here with chairs, because it's such an open building. But before we talk about the church, because there's so much to talk about here with the artwork and the statuary, everything that's in here and in the grounds, let's talk about the campus as a whole, because there have been some new additions in recent years. This was 96 that the church we're in was built. But you were just telling us about the beautiful child care center that has recently been built, and the parish office that's on the site of where the old preschool or child care place was.
Correct. I think in the course of of realizing the master plan, the latest master plan of the parish, we just are in the midst still of our latest capital campaign, which has completed the construction of two elements of that parish plan, master plan, which are the new child care center and also the pastoral services center, which is basically the church offices. So we still have more buildings to complete the parish master plan, which would include a weekday mass chapel and a chapel also for adoration, for class masses for the school, and also a parish activity center. We're very cramped for meeting space. One of the biggest frustrations that we have is not being able to accommodate all the requests for the many ministries of the parish to have their meetings and their activities. I think we also are very proud of the fact that we have 125 ministries active at any given time during the year in which our parishioners are involved.
Which is amazing.
Which is pretty impressive.
I was going to ask you that question. You beat me to it, because when I was researching for this, I was looking at a book from 2009, 2010 on your ministries. And at that point, you had 90. And I was amazed at the ministries within this parish. And that is one of the things that makes it so unique. I have a question. Do you also have banners for each of the commissions that the missions fall under?
We have
that symbolize their commission?
We do. There still are banners.
That was amazing.
Yeah, there still are banners that are used seasonally. Correct.
Okay, great. Because
we have pretty unique ministries too. I've never heard of ministries in any other parish that I've been at that, like the Gentle Hands Ministry, which are for any families that have lost a child through miscarriage or SID or any unfortunate accident or something like that. And then we also have the Stephen Ministry is also active here, which are trained parishioners, basically trained to listen to persons that are going through difficult times for any reason, just to have somebody to accompany them through those times, accompany them. And we're very proud of those ministries. And then the parish has always been renowned for its social responsibility ministries, just that run from, the full gamut of helping people in need, helping the less fortunate, journeying with them, trying to make life better for them in any way that the parish can. So we're very proud of all the ministries that our parishioners are involved in.
Yes, I was amazed at the number that they have here, and the community as a whole coming together in the different types, like you said. So you mentioned some of those, but there's too many to even name at this point. You do have a school here as well. We were talking about.
We have the largest elementary Catholic school in the diocese. We have approximately close to 1,200 students.
Just in elementary school, wow.
Correct. Kindergarten, pre-K through the 8th grade. Then our child care center also has over, I think, about 160 children aged 8 weeks to pre-K.
Goodness.
So we have a pre-K
In that component
at the
too.
child care center, and then
The early
pre-K
pre-K
that
and then
starts
the
the
standard
school.
pre-K.
Correct.
And in our generation, we went to kindergarten. Now you have these different stages of pre-K, but that totally is just mind-boggling that it's
Fine.
growing and doing and
It's a
thriving.
huge operation. We're very, very, very blessed and very fortunate to be able to exercise all the ministry that we do. Not just in education and evangelization, but in our social responsibility in the community as well.
And like you said, Father Becknell the school started within a matter of a year or two from when the parish, I think like in 1958, the school then is established, 1957, I think, 2 years from the time that it was canonically named a parish. And then you all also had, I think it was the Daughters of Jesus. Did I get the order correct? That served here.
Father Becknell brought in the Daughters of Jesus to teach and
in
to run the school.
And so you had a convent here because there were 5 or 6 of the sisters that were here literally until 2002.
I think he might have had as many as 20 early
At one time?
on. But over the years, as vocations sort of dwindled in both religious communities and in the priesthood, that they kind of went down. I think by the time the sisters finally retired and went home to Spain, there were 4 remaining here.
Okay.
So, but yes, that was one of the first things that he did after getting the sisters here. Was there was I guess at the time it was a farmhouse that was still on the property from when this was a little bit rural, and he put the sisters in that 2-story house, which I think only had like 8 rooms. And he did not really know how crowded the sisters were until he went over one day and found one of the sisters sleeping on a cot in the kitchen. And he realized that he needed to provide them with a better convent. So he built a beautiful convent. It was actually state-of-the-art at the time, and through the generosity of many of the original parishioners of the parish, some of whom are still charter members of the parish, still with us. And in 1964, I believe, he built a brand new convent for them, and it was state-of-the-art at the time. So we were very fortunate. He was a pastor here when he started kindergarten here. He was a pastor here when I was baptized here. He was the pastor when I went through, all through, from kindergarten through the 8th grade. He was still the pastor here. So in those days, pastors started in a place and they could stay there, I guess, until they retired. But I remember Father Becknell, yes. So we thought he was mean at the time we were little kids, but found out later that he wasn't at all.
We've been talking about the buildings that exist here, but there are some plans for other components, you might say, to be added to St. Aloysius. I'm not going to say it right, I know. Columbarium?
Correct.
I said it right.
Well, we have some of our charter parishioners have been asking about it. Especially the people that have lived their entire life here, and that St. Aloysius has been such an integral part of their family.
Yeah, there's no cemetery.
They want to stay
here.
And so I guess the idea kind of surfaced with some of them, and basically since they had seen that other parishes with cemeteries or areas are developing
their cemeteries, right.
columbariums. We've also begun plans to include areas of columbarium niches here at St. Aloysius for the interment of cremains.
Yes, I was going to explain because when we were on break, I didn't have a clue what that was. But this parish doesn't have a cemetery, and we got to talking about it. And I'm familiar with like a mausoleum where
and
you
crypts
put the coffin in
the
it.
crypt,
right?
correct.
And so this is a structure with niches where you put the cremated remains in it. So the urn, or the box,
correct.
Whatever the person's
And it could
remains
be
are in.
a series of smaller structures that contain the niches, which really is the idea that our parishioners have, that they sort of a different concept, but their idea is they would like their niche and their remains to be kind of on the main thoroughfares of the vitality and the life of the parish. People might see them think of them when they come into church. The school children will be running by and talking, and that way it sort of makes them, in a sense, feel like they'll still be alive
here
and a part of the vitality and the life of the parish, even after they're gone.
And that is so amazing here, and that's one of the things that I love. And talking about where they want to be put fits right in with where I was going next, and that this parish is not just about the walls here. You experience God from the time you get out of your car when you pass on Stewart Avenue with the alley of crepe myrtles leading, to this church. But there are gardens and there are fountains that we can talk about a little bit surrounding here. So when I come to Mass here, when I'm walking up, my mind is immediately calmed if I pass the fountains, to, I don't know if it's east or west, but on the parish office side of the church, and, hear that water. The same thing on the opposite side, there's a pathway where there was a fountain at one time. I haven't been here in a while. I think it might still be there. But
yes.
The green space, the Stations of the Cross are amidst all of the beautiful crepe myrtles that line the alley leading here. This church does not have like a main door. So you have, side doors. There's many multiple entrances, I should say, into this building.
Correct.
The way that the first church was laid out, that alley of crepe myrtles led to a garden, right? For the Daniel Becknell.
A plaza. It was more like a plaza with a fountain in the center.
In the center, going back. And so y'all have retained all of that and added to it to create that serenity and that peacefulness and that the sense of God in nature, which is what I love, besides
Correct.
the physical church. So
it's
you're
going to
saying
be
they want to be in the midst of all of that.
Correct. It's going to be a challenge with the size of the parish and the growth of the parish and the need for more facilities to accommodate all the different meetings and activities of the different ministries here. But we sometimes have to move the green space from one location to another, but we're still holding on to it. And
That's it.
People take a great deal of pride from it. And it does create an environment on the outside of the church as well as inside of the church that people find appealing and also brings them a great deal of peace and ability to integrate into their spirituality, their experience of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And when you're in this church, all the pews are close to the altar. So even in the back, you're close to the front. And it's bounded by these windows that look out into that space, which to me, I love drawing nature in. So in light of that, you and I were talking before, when this church was constructed, there was a lot, I think Father Becknell was an artist to begin with, but there was a lot of artwork and a lot of planning that went into
art was one of the things that Monsignor Becknell was known for.
That's right.
Being a connoisseur of, and he certainly made his contribution in that respect of making sure that St. Aloysius was the campus really was filled with art work. So not to mention which were the windows, stained glass windows that were originally the design of which were commissioned by him and were accomplished by a parishioner at that time, Paul Dufour, and his understudy, Sam Corso.
Correct.
I think at the time that the original church was built, there were 4 windows designed, but only 2 that were able to be fabricated at the time because of the expense and the limitations of the parish finances. But very recently, we were able to complete the 3rd full window that was of the original design. So that was very satisfying to be able to do that. We also improved the lighting in the church so that parishioners find it easier to read their hymnals and missals or to see each other.
Yeah, that's it. Father Becknell as well, when we're talking about stained glass windows, which Paul DeFore's studio did, but he also had commissioned someone that came in, and in the old church, they had beautiful 6 panels that surrounded the altar of the old church, and you'll see a picture of that. And they were commissioned by Milo, as they say here.
Milo was the artist, the way he signed his name. Milo Pius was his name, from Switzerland. It was an understudy of Dom Gregory DeWitt, who was the Benedictine monk.
Jesus of Sacred Heart.
That's right, who was the artist with the Benedictines who did all the artwork and responsible for all the artwork in St. Joseph Abbey in Covington, in the refectory of St. Joseph Abbey, and also was commissioned to do the sanctuary ceiling here at Sacred Heart Church in Baton Rouge. Milo was his understudy, and he did, I think, the great majority of his work in this country is right here on the campus of St. Aloysius. In the original paintings that he did for the church, basically all the saints in the Roman canon, the First Eucharistic Prayer,
I read that.
are pictured in those paintings. They are still in the new church now, as well as the crucifix, painting of the crucifix with St. Aloysius, the patron saint of the parish, kneeling at the foot of the crucifix. I think the parish was unique in its time because in 1955, it was instead of having any statues at all, Monsignor Becknell depicted all of these saints and the crucifix and the patron saint of the parish in paintings, and they took the place of statues in the church. Milo also did all of the Stations of the Cross, the mosaic Stations of the
They're
Cross.
beautiful. And those are now here from the old church.
All those were moved from the old church into the current church as well. The tabernacle was moved, the original tabernacle was moved from the original church into the new church, and many other fixtures and pieces of work. On the outside of the church, we were very blessed to have had several sculptures by noted local sculptor Frank Hayden, who also did the crucifix in St. Joseph Cathedral downtown and some of the other sculpture there. We also are very blessed to have some of the artwork of Adelaide Brandt, noted period artist here in the diocese, most noted for her paintings in the Catholic Life Center, all of which was commissioned by Bishop Tracy.
And Al Laverne, who did the fountain.
Correct.
The 6x6 relief in the fountain.
Exactly. So, we're very blessed in that way too. These things were very important to Monsignor Becknell. Kind of like the preservation of the faith, that also included the preservation of art.
One of the things we haven't talked about here are the bells of St. Aloysius. And there are 3 bells here, and they were taken down at one point and cleaned when this new church was built, but they're in the same stand from the 50s that Father Becknell put up, and they still ring, although I think there's a new system for ringing them. They were all donated as memorial gifts, the largest of which is 500 pounds, and it's quite large. It has the inscription of when this parish was begun in 1955, the date actually inscribed on it. All 3 of the bells have the date inscribed on them for when they were cast in Holland and then brought here. The second bell is 250 pounds, and the third bell weighs 200 pounds. They were taken down, refurbished, at the time that this church was built, and parishioners were able to come and look at them from what our research told me. But you were telling me on break, too, that when the bells were up, even as when you were an altar boy here, before its time, Father Becknell was before the times, and that they were electronically rung even then.
Correct. They were. I don't think they had the digital technology that we have today, but I remember distinctly as an altar boy, one of the things we had to do was to hit the switch to toll the bells as a funeral procession arrived and as a funeral session departed the church. Also to to turn all the bells on to ring for a wedding or for a joyous celebration. And Father Becknell was very progressive for his time before the Second Vatican Council. He from the founding of the parish, he involved so many of the parishioners in the life and the running of the parish.
And that was unheard of pre-Vatican II.
It was.
Because that's what Vatican II brought all that to the forefront.
That's right. But he made it clear to the people from the very beginning of the parish that this was their parish. They needed to make it work, and they got involved in every aspect of running the parish with him, and it's still that way today.
And that's the uniqueness. I've gathered that in the research that I've done on St. Aloysius, is that the people here are community, and they do run it. Your ministries speak that for itself with the volume and the different types that exist here. It just shows how much of it is run.
They've always done a wonderful job of taking ownership of their parish for the vitality and the life of the parish.
And one of the things too, as we're closing, because we're getting close on time here, but we haven't had a chance to really talk about all of the artwork that is here. So for those of you that might be interested in learning more about what is here at St. Aloysius, in the archives department, we do have a booklet that was published on what is in every one of the 6 murals that were in the old church that were brought here. The other paintings that we didn't get to talk about, like the baptism of Jesus, that used to be by the baptismal font in the old church and is still in close proximity to it now, as well as
the Madonna and Child.
The Madonna and Child. There are a few others. But the booklet that we have not only covers that, but gives the history of all the artwork that's here, as well as the bronze statues, as well as what's in the gardens and outside. So it's a great way for you to come and actually physically visit or learn more about what is here. So I would encourage you to do that. This is nestled in the heart of town, which is great. And do you have any closing thoughts, Father, before we leave on this place? You're just glad to be home, huh?
I am full of thoughts, but yes, it's good to be back at St. Aloysius, where my roots are. The roots of my faith are here at St. Aloysius, and so it's and the roots of my vocation are in this parish, and so it's a fitting parish for me to have returned to. So,
well, thank you so much for being my guest today and to talking with me about your parish, because that's what it is. And folks, join us again for another episode of Roots of Faith.